Hello, and welcome to another episode of Between Two Pints. I'm your host, Rob, and with me today is Aaron from Fluedbraen Creative. Oh, I got it right that time.
Nice.
So, Aaron, you're here to talk to me about your media production company.
Yeah. It's a lot of different things, right? We're starting it as a media production company. We're also going to be doing employee empowerment events, I call them. Yeah.
Nice. But first, we must pour the alcohol.
Absolutely.
Or drinks.
As apparently this is the...
Oh, are you having one as well?
Absolutely. We'll start here. And
so what are we drinking today? Here, let me do the product shot. Anytime
we're doing
people
the
bring
full...
beer, I'm excited. Blackberry lemon ale. Ooh, and then
non-alcoholic for those who are of the...
Oh, de-alcoholized craft beer.
Indeed.
Very nice. All right. I think it was Phillips who actually made root beer for a while. That was really good. I don't know if they make it anymore though.
A lot of those, the best like craft ones are like, hey, it's gone already.
Yeah.
Never to be seen again.
85 calories. That's not bad.
I found them. These are the first time I tried them too. So cheers.
So Fluedbraen, man, you do need to leave all those in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Blah, blah, blah. So Fluedbraen Creative.
Yes.
Tell me more.
Well, so yeah, it literally, we just went live. The website's finally finished. It's been a bit kind of getting it together, but my marketing team is finally complete and we're up and running now. So yeah, we're going to get to start going talking to clients. So
cool.
Yeah.
So what kind of services are you going to be offering?
We're kind of hoping to diversify things a little bit. It's going to be everything from doing media campaigns for small to medium businesses. I got to do my little lips out a little.
Local warm up.
Exactly. So doing media campaigns to what I call employee empowerment events.
What are employee empowerment events?
Well, so I was a carpenter for 15 years. So that's kind of been the beginnings of this thing. I've had to kind of get out for health reasons. So I'm doing this to try to empower small to medium construction companies who I've spent a lot of time with, and I've seen the struggles that they've had to go through, even just, getting to spend a bit of time with their people.
Yeah,
okay?
No, I can see that.
So the idea is to do backyard barbecues, it's whatever kind of event they might be interested in, but do it on a regular basis. So you have a chance to kind of meet with your boys without having to do any of the planning or any of any of these small to medium businesses. If you don't have an HR department, there's no time to plan any of that stuff. You're just trying to get the next thing, right? So try to take some of the load off and give a chance for them to actually hang out with the superheroes of their company, as we call them, right? I mean, this is the only reason that anything gets built is because of the people on the ground. So it's a chance for employers to put their employees as the front of their campaigns. They're, the first people you see on their website will be, so the ones that a customer is going to see come out to their business will be these people. And it really will show that, they've invested in their people. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually coming from a software background where they don't invest in their people. And there's like a loyalty tax. I mean, I've heard trades are a bit better with that where
it can be, and that's where that's where again I'm kind of starting this as a construction consultancy, but it's multi-purpose, right? It's meant to kind of empower everyone, right? Most of the videography that you see nowadays is kind of the CEO sitting in front of a window talking about the profitability of the company and how well they're going to do and all the new contracts that are coming up. And
dude, I've shot a lot of those.
Right? Exactly. And so what I find with that is that it doesn't really talk about the people that are doing this. Hey, like, sure, your profits are great, but how did you get that? You got that because you had these wonderful, amazing people who bust their asses every day. I'm allowed to swear, is it?
Oh yeah, please.
Excellent. Yeah. So it's having been there and having seen the struggles of a lot of these companies where they just don't even have the bandwidth to, right? Even just marketing, right? To do a little social media campaign, right? Is difficult for any of them to really pull together. So trying to just kind of find the ones that are hoping to upgrade their own services, right? Get themselves out into their own community and not have to fight for the next job. Okay?
Yeah.
But have that job seeking them because they've seen online how much they have, how they value their employees, how they're right? Yeah.
I think that's interesting because actually one of my early episodes of this got me work helping with social media for a film festival. And it's funny because I don't think I'm like a social media wizard by any, but I've watched a ton of YouTube videos and read like articles on it. And the thing I find is like, yeah, having someone with some basic knowledge who's like willing to actually sit down and spend a couple hours or like over several periods. Cause like you can schedule stuff a month in advance, but also you need stuff to schedule.
Yeah. So the idea is even with the media campaigns, right? I've written out a little script. I'm a screenwriter, so that's kind of where I'm also moving this thing into is screenwriting and film production. And that this is kind of the beginning of the thing, beginning of the beast. There we go. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's kind of just trying to do 3 or 4 different little scripts at a time, shoot them in 2 or 3 days so that they've got a year's worth of social media stuff that they can be posting over the course of, get all the behind the scenes stuff, right? Maybe do some on-site shooting, right? Like get some real with the people kind of stuff and make it authentic to the company. And you know, I want to try to find your, you know, the employee that wants to be a superhero and try to work that into their day-to-day, right? Like, you know, just the guy that kind of is just do, nobody's looking, yeah. Right? And just fixes the thing and, oh, I don't know how that happened, right? Like nobody could do that. Right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be quite interesting and yeah.
Well, it's especially you talk about like kind of like authenticity, I think is what you're getting at, which is interesting because one of the reasons that sort of inspired me to try to do this is like I wanted some side film stuff to do because I love shooting, but I also didn't want to have to spend hours and hours editing.
Yeah.
I hate editing. I can edit, but it's not, you know, it's unenjoyable. You must know.
See, that's what a lot of this is. Most of how I'm hoping to build this is to find the right team, right? Because so much of this I could do, but I just don't want to, right? You know, it gets to the point where it's so much better to delegate and get someone who's really good at that. Right. Versus I tend to be an autodidact where I tend to just learn it myself. Same thing with you with taking your courses and doing the right. Like moving into different things. That's always been my way of kind of doing that is learn a new skill and then see if I can make that into something that, right?
Well, the really interesting thing is, because you're talking too about like showing people the employees of companies and the people that are actually on the ground is that's becoming a lot bigger. I think too, with like how AI is like, there's all this fake content and fake people talking that authenticity has become really big on YouTube where there's like these YouTube stars who I think Sam Sula, man, I got to look this guy up. There's like a weightlifter guy who's just this like super jacked dude, but all his videos are like he just has like a little Rode wireless clipped to his hat or shirt, and it's him like, this is my breakfast and this is me driving to the gym and this is my workout, and he's got a staggering following. And there's another guy who's like this old cowboy who sort of dispenses life wisdom, and he also, it's just like him talking, minimal editing, probably just like cutting out gaps or misstarts, but not like crazy Mr. Beast style editing where it's like big, small, quick cut, J cut, you know. And I think that and even I'm seeing it now where I want real stuff. When I see like I'm watching a video and it's super produced, I know that there's money behind this and that this is probably like they're either trying to sell me something or, you know, I'm not going to get really good information. I'm going to get offered a subscription, you know, like some sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think there might be like a real place for that for like, especially like trade companies.
Well, and again, moving into all the other industries as well, you know, nurses could use the same kind of advances, right? And I really have the, you know, I talk about backyard barbecues, but it's all sizes of things. I really have the image of a roll out the red carpet event, right? Like setting up pictures in front of a wall of flame with the company logo or whatever there and letting each employee take a picture with this just like epic scene behind them.
Yeah.
Right.
Or, I mean, we were talking about before, but you know, karaoke.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good karaoke party is a real bonding session.
And that's the thing. It's meant to be versatile and fit into, right? Like I have a vision for axe throwing contests and that kind of, right? Like, you know, find something that everybody actually wants to come out to and just making an event that, you know, really is just empowering your employees and showing how much you give a crap about them. Hey,
I definitely think there needs to be more of that in the world.
Yeah. And again, it's just one of those things where even the best intentioned companies sometimes just don't have the time or the effort to be able to do that kind of thing. Right. Even the marketing, it's apparently supposed to be, you know, like 5 to 10% of revenue. And yet a lot of companies aren't looking at it as the investment in the company that it is. Right. You know, finding the next business or the next client, not having to search for employees, but having good employees looking for you because they see you putting yourself out in front of this, right? I mean, and it's interesting because I had this idea right before the AI came out. So this is where the authenticity has really been one of those things that really has been serendipitous. And this was the idea that I'd had before this became a problem of now we're just going to get flooded with fake crap all the time, right? I mean, it's going to be quite interesting.
Oh, it's already been happening. I know Meta announced that they're like wholesale creating fake accounts now for stuff, and I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but I can already kind of see it. There's all these like fake. I made the mistake of Googling about therapy last September, and now there's all these like totally AI generated Instagram like accounts that are being suggested to me, and it's like, you're like, some of them are funny, so you're like, I share it with my buddy, and then you realize, you look at the account, it's like, this isn't a person, this is like somebody probably running 20 of these, and like it's all auto generated and probably auto scheduled, and yeah.
And the problem now is, sure, it may start benign and it may start as something that seems great fun and we're all having a good time, but unfortunately it does really have those kind of implications to it. So I've been really kind of, part of what I am hoping to do is really kind of teach companies about AI, or at least help them to kind of understand what's going to be coming at them. Right. So I have been trying to throw myself into that a little bit to really just kind of grasp what it could be used for, what the good uses of it are going to be, and how we can kind of limit the downfall of humanity.
Human civilization.
Exactly. Right. I mean, I have had an idea for the script of the, the first human plugged into the AI who now has to become the last one watching humanity get annihilated around them. But anyway, that's
I honestly, watching all the other stuff going on, I don't think AI is going to be the thing that annihilates humanity. Like,
it's great. Yeah.
I think we'll do a damn fine job on our own.
Well, and so this has been where I've really had to kind of look at it more as, the internet or the printing press or the telephone, all of these advancements that everybody went, it's going to ruin humanity. We're all going to die. And yet here we still are, right? Yeah. I mean, and it's adjustment periods in every case for sure. But, you would hope that there are people far smarter than us who are focused on making sure that it doesn't destroy humanity. And, that there's at least that kind of, sort of check on it, at least in some manner. Right.
So you said, just to back to the points, you said that you want to like create like social events for companies. That's interesting. Like, because also I've worked in software, I've worked in a lot of industries, and tone deaf events where you don't want to go to it. And I've been to some where I was a member of the British Columbia Videographers Association, professional. They had an axe throwing day. Awesome. Everybody showed up. It was so much fun. Yeah. But I've also been to companies where they have this event and everybody's there and we're all miserable because it was made clear that we needed to show up because it was team building. But it was like, oh, it's the owner's favorite restaurant that's like a weird seafood restaurant and nobody wants to be here. And I would never come here even if it was cheap. And, oh, the bar's not free. Cool. Now I can't even get drunk. And the bar is really expensive. Yeah. So I can't afford to get drunk.
Yeah. 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 Thanks a lot so much. Yeah, exactly. And they're not even giving away prizes or anything, right?
So what's your idea of an awesome company event?
It really kind of depends on the company themselves, right? A lot of this is going to be a whatever you're looking at doing kind of situation. What I'm hoping to do is just start up a form or just a survey that you could send out to your company to see what they might be interested in. Right. If axe throwing comes back every single time as the one that they want to go to, then right. There's lots of axe throwing companies around town. They do mobile events. We can absolutely bring them along and here we go.
Yeah. The only problem is it's really awkward to mix alcohol with those.
Well, luckily, coincidentally, I was walking into the big box outlet store and managed to find a full set of a kid's deluxe axe throwing kit. So I now have 2 of those that I can set up for when you happen to have had a couple drinks, and they should hopefully not be as
playing with
deadly.
Sharp edges.
Exactly. So that's where I've kind of tried to cover it from both sides. So it's an axe throwing event you can bring your kids to.
Awesome. Yeah. So you also mentioned you do video. So yeah. I'm a camera nerd. We got to have the talk. What's your cameras? What do you shoot with? Let's all hear it.
So I had started. It's in Sony A6300.
Mm-hmm. I had one of those.
Yeah.
It's a solid camera.
When I first got it, it was one of the few 4K like mirrorless cameras available. So I got it because I kind of wanted something versatile that I could do shooting with for photography or move into videography later on.
Yeah, the only reason it didn't work out for me is I have all these Canon lenses, and to just change is a huge amount of money.
It absolutely is, and that's where you kind of have to move the whole system, because trying to keep to it, no. And that's where I'm at the point now where, with this new venture, I'm hoping to upgrade at some point, but whether I stick with the Sonys or move into something different will be for another day.
As a Canon guy, I kind of wish I was in Sony land, because like with some of the ones that are coming out now, like what is it, the FX3 and like just some of those, I really wish I had like 5 years ago done the full switch over, just because now I'm still trapped and they don't even make the EF cameras anymore.
Yeah, and that's the problem with a lot of it too. It moves along so quickly that by the time you do get set up, all right, I finally got it saved up for this lens. I've been waiting so long for it. Right? You get it, and it's like, oh no, it's got damn it. Yeah. Mobile shutter. What do you? Right? Yeah. So and it's going to be quite interesting, even with that, right? Like now that they kind of get AI into designing some of these things, see if we can try to make them more efficient and try to like. This is where again I'm trying to see it more as hopefully the tool that it will end up being, instead of the mass destruction. But it is going to be difficult for the next little while, because this adjustment period, I think, is going to be a little different than, right? Like, it's not like the printing press where a lot of people were looking at losing their jobs, right? Like this is, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people did, but not, I think, on the same scale as what we're going to, or at least, and this, so my problem with a lot of this is the same thing with, the oil company argument, right? Like, what are they going to do? If we shut down oil production, sure, that'd be great. Oh yeah, green society. Where are they going to go? All these people need something to do. So the idea that we haven't set up a robust means of making sure that everybody can get trained in these things, can get right. Like I've been the product of a couple of these government projects, so I do encourage everyone to go and check out what the government has been setting up for allowing people to kind of move into the next phase.
Well, I think I listened to a book on petroleum, and it was really interesting because the author made the argument that, like, petroleum, like gas and cars, that's great, super, however, it's the nitrates they can create from fossil fuels for farming are so much more important to our food supply, and that we could not generate the food supply we wanted. And I've heard other people say, like, yeah, actually, they can, but it would be a huge shift and a lot more money. And it's like, well, that we always have a really good use for petroleum, like fertilizers. So wasting it on cars when we can just save it for fertilizer, because like food seems to be more, that's more of a priority to me.
And that's kind of been my other issue with this. Everybody talks about the cost of shifting over, but how much is it going to cost us to rebuild Jasper? How much is it costing us to rebuild Fort McMurray? All these places that have just literally burnt to the ground because of the conditions that we have created from this.
I think it's really interesting because as people who live in Vancouver, we've gotten over the summers the last like 6 years to see like undeniable evidence that climate change.
Absolutely.
And I like, because like for people watching, if you aren't in Vancouver, like we have forest fires now, and I've grown up in BC. I've lived here my whole life, and only as of about maybe 5 or 6 years, 7 years ago, they started having these crazy forest fires, and it looks like an apocalypse with like this weird smoky haze and people having lung problems, and like, and I'm always like, oh well, I'm young and tough. It doesn't bother me. And it's like, one of those days I rode my bike, and like, I didn't think it would bother me. And then that night I was like, wow, my lungs hurt.
And it's the micro particles. The problem is that you don't know what's burning. If it were just trees, sure, but it's never just trees. And all of these houses with all the plastics and all the stuff that's inside every one of these houses now are now going into the air. And the idea that these particulates aren't affecting you is ludicrous. Right. Is the same problem I have with, just even vehicles in general. The idea that the emissions are totally fine.
Have you seen, there was a video, I think it was, I don't know, there was a hydrogen powered car where they have the exhaust hooked up to a big bubble, and there's a runner running in it because all it does is produce water.
See, and so I had one of my ideas. I really do want to kind of produce. I don't know if I want to put this out too much, but
steal this.
Exactly. Everybody's going to steal this. I mean, well, it's one of those things where if you want to go produce it, I'm right. Like I would rather have 100 versions of this get produced than right. But I call it climate denier. And it's essentially the idea of, just a couple walking past the big truck going blah, 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 blah. And this fumes and they walk through and just give, right. And they just kind of tap on the window and go, I'm really sorry, sir. They point to the no idling sign right there. I didn't know if you realized that this is a no idling zone where you're not really supposed to just be sitting in your, immediately gets the blowback, right? You fucking can't tell me what to, right? Turns into a game show. Right?
Okay.
Sorry, sir. We didn't realize you hadn't played the exhaust game. Right? Snap their fingers. They all get into their game show garb. Windows are all duct taped closed. There's an exhaust pipe running from the exhaust straight into the cab. And the game is just see how long you last for. Right. And the whole, conceit of the thing is that at any point he could just
turn it off. But the whole thing is that they'll sit there and watch the truck fill with smoke, coughing and gagging and saying, why won't you let me out? Go and instead of looking at the idea that, well, this is what you're kind of doing to everybody. The idea that your vehicle in 30 seconds, 1 minute, produces enough exhaust to kill a human being. If you were to just gather it up into that, right? Yeah.
Let the runner run, how long would it take?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's one of those things where I don't know if that connection's been made between how quickly these things could actually kill a person to how that's okay spewing into our atmosphere.
I think a lot of it too is people have a problem with like scale.
Exactly.
That's a big one where it's like, it's beyond our small monkey brains to be like, yeah, okay, well, it's just one car. It's like, dude, Canada is like spread out. Go to like other countries where there's the population density is just insane.
Yep. And now it's going to be on China apparently to pull us out of this. They have made so many advancements in all of this green technology. They're really, and I was in China when I was 19. It was about 30 years ago. There I go dating myself, but and I remember it being. We went to Shanghai, and you could walk up to a building and just.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
from the smog.
Yeah,
and there's been a photographer that's taken a photo of the skyline over the past however long, and you can watch the skies clear as the city builds up. Because they've made investments in getting rid of, they recognize that having everybody hacking and wheezing all day was, hurting their productivity. So,
and property values.
Exactly. Well, and it's really been interesting to watch this slide back now. We're watching the States have this whole pulling themselves out of all of these things that we had agreed on, right? Like I thought he had said he negotiated this whole thing, and now he's coming back and saying, no, I don't like that. And we're going to,
I know
interesting.
I know we were talking before, but I really want to live in a world where, conservatives are financially conservative and liberals are actually liberal and not just like right-wing people in disguise as liberals. And I think that it's just disturbing, even because it's happening up here in Canada, where I don't feel like our Liberal Party is actually liberal, and I don't even know what the heck is up with the Conservative Party. They're like moving ever more right and ever more extreme.
And I just thought that we had already agreed that we were best when we were all in this together.
Yeah,
right? Like, I thought that was the whole.
Well, this is the weird thing too, where it's like now it's like, oh well, climate change has become a liberal thing, so you cannot be right wing and say that climate change is real. Otherwise, like it's the weird science denial where it's like, I want to stay out of people's personal lives and just worry about like not burning down our planet.
And it just, and I try to, get away from the liberal conservative. I'm trying to look at the actual solution to this problem. I don't really care which side it comes from. If you've got my issue with a lot of this side is that they don't really have solutions.
No,
it's a lot of just, you're a bad guy, you're evil. And it's really devolved to this, slinging mud at each other instead of it. And not just mud, but, literal demons and just the most vile words that you can throw at each other. And that's more for the clicking than for the actual trying to accomplish anything. Yeah. And that's my issue with this. If you had a solution for this thing, why would you need to be yelling and screaming at the other person? Because that solution would be so fucking good that nobody would be able to deny that this is the best thing that's ever, right? Like, But instead, it's just, this guy's an idiot, so everything he says must be stupid, and we just got to tell him to go fuck himself.
It's tribalism, I think, is the term that they're throwing around, which kind of makes sense, where it's just like us and them. And it's like, well, no, like I remember, 10 years ago, I was having beers with a buddy who was conservative. I don't think he agrees now with what conservatism is. Like what we were talking about is like minimum wage, like how are businesses being helped? Like, isn't it weird that it seems to be really hard to start a profitable business in Canada and as like an individual? And like, those are the kind of discussions that I think we need more of, and less of like yelling about like religions and personal lives and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's my thing. Like, just where's the solution? Right. I don't want to hear blaming. I don't want to hear this guy's stupid, blah, blah, blah. What are your solutions? How are we going to move this forward? That is all I'm interested in listening to at this point. Unfortunately, it's just kind of gotten to that, I've let people be for so long that now it's just gotten to the point where we need to start focusing on not letting you have opinions that are easily disproven.
Yeah.
Right. The idea that we're allowing flat earthers to still kind of wander around believing that the earth is flat is just kind of ludicrous to me. Right.
I have a feeling that somebody who didn't believe that started it as a joke and are just like, either it's hilarious to them or horrifying that there are so many people that actually buy into it now.
Same with Scientology. I wouldn't doubt that L. Ron Hubbard wrote that book and was just like, yeah, they'll never believe this. It'll be crazy. Right?
He's quoted as like, he's like, why write science fiction for pennies a page when you can write a religion?
Yeah. And be tax exempt.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's anyway, don't get me started on that one.
So back to Fluedbraen.
Yeah.
Fluedbraen Creative Incorporated.
Yeah, well, it does kind of tie into, because it's about empowering, I guess, Canadians at this point.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And to get into, why is it so difficult for Canadian film to find any market? That's another thing that we're hoping to kind of move into. We've been doing a lot of studying into private equity. Right? How do we get investors to invest in Canadian films when most of them have been told by Telefilm that the only marketable films by Telefilm are the art house or the very, unsellable kind of feature film or stuff that, we can't really take to an international market and really make any kind of money off.
Well, and some of them, like I've seen, I don't want to be critical, but I'm going to be critical.
Let's do it. Hey, I'm in.
I've seen, it's like the Canadian films that get funding, there are some good ones out there.
Absolutely.
Like, I've met people who make great ones.
Yeah,
but
for
then
sure.
there's a lot of them that are like, this isn't an enjoyable story. Like I've been with my friend who's a writer and is like passionate about storytelling. Like, we've talked about like scripts I've written. He always has great advice, but like we've been to some and he's just like, what the hell? Who wrote that? Like and who approved like funding this? Because it's not like, what's the moral of the movie? Or like, and is it an enjoyable story? Or does it, if it's either enjoyable or there's a moral to it. And some of the ones I've seen that are like the local Canadian ones, it's just like, this is really beautifully shot. This is really beautifully acted, but like, I don't understand the ending. And it's not that I don't understand the ending just sucks.
And that kind of becomes the issue where, again, it's not about making something that we can now market to other or to even to Canada.
Yeah.
Right. Like if Canadians aren't coming out to watch these movies, why are we spending all this money?
Or if you have to play the card of like, oh, well, it's Canadian, you should see it. It's like, okay, but it should be trying to be good.
And it's on a yearly basis. So you're basically waiting for this deadline to come around every year instead of just all year having new things coming all the time and being able to just fund stuff as it becomes ready to be funded.
Yeah.
Hey, it locks us into this, unfortunate situation of hurry up and wait, which I feel kind of stifles a lot of the creativity. Then we're just sitting around and waiting for the US to bring productions to us instead of actually doing our own stuff and focusing on making it the best the world's ever seen. Right.
Well, I know too, even for BC, I was at Whistler, and of course I might be, there's probably stuff that's incorrect, but a lot of people in BC were upset at the Whistler Film Fest because the Canadian government gave out 17 film grants to make film projects, but only one of them went to people in BC. Which is, and in some ways I can get if you don't know anything and you just, oh, well, they already have lots of film there. But it's like, no, we are a destination space. So we, in fact, have a ton of crew members who would be willing to take cut rates to work on stuff. But you still need some kind of budget to do that. Like you still need to pay for, minimum rates.
Yeah.
And like I have friends who like they've got $80,000 Steadicam, and like I could probably get him to come out for beer if he's not busy because we're buddies. But like, yeah, if I were to get a grant, it's like, well, I know I could get a steal of a rate on him, and it would still be good for him. And yeah, seeing that we only get 1 out of 17 grants.
Yeah. And I mean, I get that most of the production is in, Ontario and Quebec, but it's one of those things where if we're looking at just Canadian productions as a whole, why wouldn't we be just, doing everything we can to get, Alberta's apparently been, trying to bump up there, right? Like everybody, I think, has recognized that we can't just sit around any longer, especially now. Right. I mean, now that we've apparently had war declared on us, what are we going to do but try to, do as much as we can to pump up our own, right? Because apparently we're, everybody we thought we could trust has right apparently has the chance to just turn on us at a whim. So
that's okay. We can still be friends with Mexico. They got tequila. I mean, and they're probably nicer anyway.
Well, this is again, I thought we had already established that we were all better off together, and cutting off ties was never going to make things better for anybody, right? I mean, it just seems so odd that we're still fighting wars with each other. I'm still confused about anyway.
I remember reading like right at the beginning, in the middle of the pandemic, there were people that predicted that this would happen, is that like, because there is financial, and like I get it, like I mean, even on a personal sense, the film industry tanked last year, and like I became like depressed and like critical and pushing people away, and that certainly tanked things with the person I was seeing. And like, yeah, I get like on a country level, yeah, things are bad, people are not doing great, countries are going to start like lashing out at things. Leaders that probably shouldn't necessarily be leading right now are getting elected, and like even I know we have the NDP party, and some friends are explaining to me that every time they get into power in a province, they do really well financially. They have a pretty decent track record of handling things well financially, which is interesting because in the comments on many things on Facebook, you would think that they're the devil incarnate. And again, I don't, NDP, whatever. I'm not big into politics. It's like, but if they're balancing the budgets and they're not like telling people what they can and cannot do in the privacy of their own homes, that's actually what I'm looking for.
That's really about all we can kind of expect from, right? I mean, as long as things aren't falling apart about us, right? I mean, and it seems so odd to me that, we've got now Elon Musk apparently running the world and going about and tampering and everything. And he's going to be apparently the king of Mars, I suppose, at this point.
I'm gonna lose a lot of people here, but I liked him in the beginning. Not now, like years ago before he got on social media. And actually I think there's a term they've called audience capture, where like say you get on Twitter and you become huge, but like for some reason you become attractive to the right wing. Their fandom will slowly egg you on and push you until you move like further and further right. And like a lot of people have speculated that's what happens to a lot of these personalities on social media, is that they're like, they say one thing about one thing that really appeals to one side, and that side just like drives them, because you can't align with that side but then be like, oh, but climate change is real, or like, oh, this is like, it's just all of this stuff, and they get pushed that way.
And that's my issue with this, one side or the other
kind
of thing. Like nothing is black or white ever. There's no part of anything, and especially in human behavior, it's always this or it's always that. There is, right, there's gray everywhere. It's all just gray.
Well, the big argument against what climate change, like why there is a discussion about it from on the right, is that it's all a scam by green companies. And the thing is, it's like, yeah, I'm more than willing to accept there's a bunch of green companies out there or things like totally milking this and taking advantage. But however, let's talk about the oil company.
But that's where, yeah, exactly, right? As if they haven't done anything, and as if that negates the fact that these fumes are bad, and that the everything associated with does seem to have some sort of oily, just, I don't know what every just part of it just seems to have some
questionableness. Yeah.
Hey, no matter which way you look at it. There's nothing about it that's not somewhat tainted.
Well, it's
Hey,
money. There's big
and
money.
that unfortunately gets to most of my issue with things. I guess this is where we're taking this podcast.
I want to rein it back in because I want to promote your company. I don't want to cost you business. We may need to like cut parts of this out because a lot of the point of this podcast is to promote people's stuff. And I think my buddy joked is not get anybody fired. So,
well, I'm brand new and all by myself, so it's like getting the team together. But I mean, it's to bring it back to the company, right? Like this is part of what I want to bring with this thing as well, is trying to have these hard discussions. My problem is that if we're not talking about them in an actual debatable manner, how are we ever supposed to move this thing forward? Right? It's a matter of trying to find that middle ground that we can agree on and try to build from there. And this whole tearing each other apart, shooting each other down, I feel isn't really helping anything. So that's what Fluedbraen Creative is about, trying to bring all of your people together, trying to find a way to, put out stories that are about togetherness, right? Like I like the horror movie where the, not just the final female lives, but that everybody bands together and we actually fight the evil together. Right. That's the kind of stuff that I would like to see more of, right? Like where, it's not the neighborhood fractures and everybody goes their own way and everybody has to die in the end. Right. But that we see this, everybody goes, okay, well, let's band together and fight this thing. And now we've actually got, right. And it seems this whole pessimistic view of we have to tear everything apart in order to rebuild it. Right. I mean, yes, some things need to be, looked at.
And I mean, there are absolutely some structures that need to be torn down and rebuilt.
Yeah.
That's not always a terrible thing, but I think the people that are really thrilled at tearing things down need to also start thinking about the fact that they also need to be the ones to build it up. You can't just show up, tear something apart and leave.
And that's been my big issue with this, right? It's so much easier to kick over the sandcastle than to have spent the hours and months learning how to build it, doing all the planning, making sure you had all the pieces together to make sure, right? Like getting the team together, having a bunch of people that were on the same plan to make sure that you get this thing made to these, right? Like to have to go through all of that. I get that's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
Far easier to just walk over and go, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah. Well, even like
Right?
even in the comments, you watch like a video that is like reasonably well shot, sounds decent. The editing is like one comment like, "Oh, you guys suck," or like liberal this, or like, "Oh, right wing Nazi," and it's just like, okay, cool, but let's explain your point instead of just like shouting obscenities and then walking off. Like the internet has really allowed that behavior, or that stuff where like you can attack people anonymously, and it's like, well, if you can't stand by what you're saying, then do you even believe in it?
And I'm still so confused about that, is that why is it only negativity? Why does it not amplify beauty?
Oh, yeah.
Why does it not amplify togetherness? Why does it not amplify compassion?
I think it's because it's like, well, I know, what is it? Fear is the way we're wired. And I think I saw this in a lecture where the thing is that biologically we're wired so that, hey, me and you, it's primitive times. We're out hunting and like we have our buddy Bill, and Bill gets torn apart by a mountain lion. Okay, that happens 1 week, and then a month later, we're like exploring, we're out hunting again, and we find like a grove of apple trees. 5 years later, we're still going to remember where Bill got killed, but we might not remember where the grove of apple trees.
Absolutely. And that's so here, I'm going to plug one of my other things was the Subvert podcast.
You're a podcaster as well.
Yeah. We're on hiatus right now, but I am looking to bring her back. So that was one of the things that we had really tried to tackle in that one, was tying the neuroscience of the new brain scans that we've, all the new discoveries that are coming out in terms of structure of the brain and how it all gets fit together and such, to the behavior. Right. Really kind of getting to like the problem with fear is that it's kind of processed in the same spot as pain. Almost.
Oh yeah,
brain.
And depression.
Exactly. So the problem with pain is that you don't feel pain here. Okay, you feel it in the brain.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, emotional pain is the same spot. So emotional pain in terms of your brain feels the same as somebody stabbing you with a little knife.
And actually, that's interesting. One thing I've learned, and this totally works, if you are super depressed over something, maybe a breakup or like a job loss, the depression, you can actually, if you just take like an aspirin and an ibuprofen, that helps. Like, it's not like, oh my God, I'm happy, everything's beautiful. But like, I have run multiple tests on this, and it definitely at least is like, feels 20% less terrible.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's because, and you can like, if you Google this, it's backed up. Like it's actually well known. Is that yeah, because it's the same part of your brain that like depression and sadness operate as pain. That these painkillers, and again, it's not like you're walking on sunshine suddenly, but suddenly at least you can like get up, do your laundry, eat healthy, crawl to the gym, get stuff going, do coursework.
Hmm. And I wonder if you could just, hand somebody a bottle of sugar pills that say ibuprofen, and you would get the, like, is it a placebo effect, I assume? Or
No,
is
it's a full on. It's because it's the same part of your brain that like it's the pain response receptors in your brain. I mean, not being said that because the placebo effect is more powerful than ever, but this is actually they've shown because it's like you said, the brain scans they realize that emotional pain is like physically identical in your brain to physical pain, and certain painkillers, normal like over the counter ones. I don't want because I don't know they numb it, but they at least reduce those signals.
Right.
So like I'm not arguing that not necessarily a placebo
yeah.
effect, but like guaranteed some of that was not the placebo effect.
Interesting. And that was always my big fascination was this, lump of stuff that sits in here, right?
Thinking meat.
Exactly, right? And the idea that, you can't make people smarter by hitting them in the head. That's always been, coming from construction where a lot of that is, bullying and harassment, and really just kind of the idea that we're building each other up by picking on each other all day. Right. I used to say, if we're not making fun of you, it's because we like you.
Oh, I was told as a camera assistant that they're making fun of me because they like me.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? So that's where it's, but the idea that that's whether that actually is helping build this relationship or not was always debatable to me. Right. So I always felt that, maybe the just, being nice and decent to each other and trying to build each other up on a day-to-day basis would probably reach the same goal, right?
I mean, I completely agree with you, though. At least I see on the other side too, where like your buddies, if you're close enough with somebody that you can like tease each other, that means there's a certain level of closeness there.
For sure.
But yeah, no, I definitely even like there's a trainee program in the Cinematographers Guild, and like I have been on shows where like the trainees getting like some pretty amazing training and getting paid like $16 an hour. But then I've also been on shows where it's like, I think that person's taking their marital frustrations out on the trainee because we're all sure he's miserable with his partner and he seems to be extra dickish this week.
Yeah, that's why I've made sure to impose a strict no asshole policy, firmly squared at me. It's yeah. Yeah, and so it's going to be interesting to see where this all ties together, right? And this is where I tend to throw a wide net with a lot of my creative things, right? So I mean, I produce music, right? I'm also a singer-songwriter.
So we'll put all the links to those. So
yeah, absolutely.
You got a SoundCloud?
Yeah. No, Oprius is on. Actually, we're on SoundCloud, Spotify, everywhere. Yeah, we've got I think the 6 songs are out now.
What do you play?
I sing. I play guitar and bass and bagpipes.
Bagpipes.
Yeah. I played bagpipes when I was a kid. So that's where the Fluedbraen, the E's in there are my Celtic upbringing. It's
nice.
Throw back to that. So, and so Fluedbraen actually comes from fluid intelligence, which is part of your IQ score, apparently.
Huh.
It's basically your ability to think logically. So that's where Fluedbraen Creative is your logically creative kind of. Yeah.
So where to now? I know you mentioned you got the website up. Yeah. And you've got some social media things here. Yes.
The social media is unpopulated at this point.
Yes.
That's where once we get things up and rolling, we'll be populating it and putting all the fun stuff that we make up.
So what's your game plan for the next month?
Next month is essentially going to talk to clients and find out what they're interested in. I've written a few little ad scripts that I'm hoping to talk to some customers and see if they're interested in moving that forward. And other than that, just gathering up the team for when we get to hit the ground running for a lot of this stuff. So
have you, one thing I'm interested in, because I've seen some of my friends who are videographers dabble, have you looked at any like Facebook ads or Instagram ads and things like that?
Not at this point. I've gotten pretty lucky. The meetup that we had where we actually met a couple of weeks back there, has been really good for networking and getting together with a decent amount of that kind of crew for doing this stuff. So,
well, I meant to find clients.
Clients, I'm actually hoping to kind of go over to North and West Van, start with the mansion builders over there. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Because it feels like, a lot of them are going to be on the bigger projects. They're hopefully going to be looking more for client or employees and clients that are on the higher end of things. So they're going to need to invest a little more in that kind of thing.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, it's a nice area to drive around in. So, and having been out there, I mean, every third house has a construction
Thing going
or is starting or is ending or right. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on out there. So.
And when did you, so you were telling me you worked as a carpenter.
Yep.
When did this start to percolate or create?
So I've always kind of had the idea in the back of my head that at some point I was going to move into writing.
Mm-hmm.
My podcast had gotten me into the idea of producing, but I had never really gotten used to the idea of writing and then producing what I was writing until basically last year when I met Ron, who organized the meetup that we had there. And he kind of was instrumental in kind of mentoring me and saying, you've got some good ideas. Why aren't you producing them yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so it's been really just a real, over the past year, just throwing myself into it and learning in whatever part of it I could get into, being on as many, I've done acting before too. I used to do musicals actually up until COVID there, but I've always kind of been, since I moved out to Vancouver, I've been in the background of a lot of stuff.
Well, Aaron, that's awesome. I can't wait to see more of what Fluedbraen Creative, did I get that right? Yes, I did. Fluedbraen Creative does, and I'm sure we'll get you back on in a few months and you'll have a lot of opinions on things. You know what? Give the viewers a shout out on what your website is and all that stuff.
Website is fluedbraen.com, FLUEDBRAEN. .com.
We'll put a link below.
Yeah, there we go. That'll be easy.
And do you have Instagram? You at least have an account locked in?
They're all in there, yeah. So it's I don't know what the Fluedbraen Creative, I guess, would be the name of it there.
We'll put links.
Same with
links.
Yeah, all the we'll throw. Yeah.
Well, Aaron, thanks for bringing the beer, and
my pleasure.
We'll talk to you again
Didn't really
soon.
drink too much of it. I guess I'll chug it now.
Yeah. All right.